Good afternoon to you. This is yours truly, Mr. Panuka, and today we're coming live from our poultry unit. You can actually see the lovely beds in the background. Quite a unique day, given that we are almost bidding fair to these beds. We'll actually be offloading them tomorrow. They are actually still giving us some eggs, but for reasons that we'll explain shortly. We've decided to, dispose of, this batch, and quite a number of lessons that we've actually picked up, which we'll actually be, discussing in a short while. And you'll actually also hear from our poultry, manager, what are some of the, critical tidbits that they've been able to pick up, managing these layers that are about now 81, weeks in production. So. Join Mr. Panuka as we just run through this poultry house, and then we together bid fair to these lovely Lomond Brown beds. So tag along. So our starting point is just to review the statistics. We are at week 80 heading into week 81. You can actually see that we're about 80% in terms of production at a time when we're decommissioning these layers. So one would ask, at 80%, is that the right time to decommission? Usually people decommission, layers around, 60, 50%. But again, this is a business. You need to make sure that you make, intelligent business, decisions. Remember, we still have to also get, some disposable, value from these, layers. So we have to make sure that we look at the body weight of these, layers, and make sure that they are, at that, weight where they would actually fetch a good price, in the market. So it's purely business decision. There's demand for the layers, and we thought the price was good enough, and that's why we actually decided to dispose of, these, layers. So as you may be aware, this was our first batch of egg layers. Remember, previously we actually used to do broilers. So there's quite a number of lessons that we needed to pick up from this batch, given that this was our first egg layer batch. That relates to issues of feeding, lighting, issues of hygiene, and the likes. So talking of feed, let's hear from poultry manager Harold.
When you come to the feeding perspective, you have to make sure that you give your layers the good quality feed, so that they can also in return give you good quality eggs. You have to ensure that there is enough protein for their body growth and for the production of eggs. You have to make sure that there is enough calcium, like in our case. After we discovered that there were some malformation of eggs, we had to supplement calcium by using limestone grit.
So Harold just talked about the issues of feed, and we actually stuck to this one type of feed from Novatec. One other issue is that people have a tendency to keep jumping from feed to feed. It's very difficult for you to actually see the efficacy of your feed if you keep changing from one to the other. Of course, you've got an option for you to make your own feed. Just make sure that you've got the right expertise. Let's look at lighting next.
Another critical point that we have to note in the management of layers is lighting. On a daily basis, from the time they start laying, or from the time you start managing them, you have to ensure that you track your lighting system. Like when they start laying, you have to ensure that you provide them light for at least 14 hours. But in our case, we've been giving them light up to 16 hours. During daylight, like you can see, we've got enough coverage at natural light, and like at night we have the bulbs that we switch on, and during even the days when it's dark, we can also provide artificial lighting through these bulbs.
So the key takeaway from Harold, this guidance is that make sure that you construct your chicken house to ensure that you've got enough aeration So let's look at issues of hygiene next.
When you talk of the general hygiene of the poultry, you look at the disinfectants and the cleanliness of the equipment that are used in the poultry. That is every use of the equipment. You have to make sure that you disinfect them and you keep them well, that they don't have disease-causing organisms.
So just like humans, the chickens also need a very clean environment, and that's why you actually have to make sure that the environment in which these chickens are, it's actually clean all the time. So what are the additional tidbits on hygiene? So let's get back to our poultry manager for those additional tidbits.
About hygiene, there's removal of manure that should be timely, and it should be on a regular basis. Like in our case, we've been doing on a daily basis. Every morning we usually remove manure from the poultry.
So those are some of the fundamental aspects that we actually picked up in managing these birds to 80 weeks. So let's just look at some of the other additional tidbits. So with eggs, scale matters. Ourselves, we actually started with just about 2,000 birds, which is half the capacity of this chicken run. Our chicken run, given that it's actually 4-tier, we're actually able to stock around 4,000 birds. But given that we had to invest from scratch in terms of the chicken house and also importing the cages, it was actually quite biting on the pocket, and so it was just befitting that we just took this half the capacity, and then pick up some very critical lessons for the future production. So the plan for us, the next cycle we have to actually fill this to full capacity. And obviously, to reduce the cost, we'll be looking at doing our own feed. So those are some of the critical points that we've picked up, and we'll certainly keep you posted in our next cycle. Thank you so much, and have a lovely one from Mr. Panuka.